community. And also, she's also the CEO of Goodness. And as you all know, is basic life practices that can better our mental health. Yeah, there are so many things that we do that really helps us in the long run mentally. And she's here to teach us about the things that can help us have a very great mental health. Eh? Without much ado, let's welcome our presenter for the day. This is Rita Kobna. This is Rita Kobna. You're welcome, and we give the raise to you. So take us.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel Bedu, for the introduction. And I welcome you all once again to our community. And we are glad you came tonight and grateful that you always come here to join us to educate ourselves. And today we actually going to talk about the basic life practices that can better our mental health. Mental health is a big thing. And when we talk about mental health, we are talking about our brain and basically, and a lot of factors comes to play when it comes to that. There are certain things that we can do and there are certain things that we cannot do. So we talk about mental health. Do we have control over it? Do we not have control over it? Are there things that we can do to help ourselves when it comes to our mental health? And we are going to look at that today and then see if there is something that we can do to better our mental health in that regard. So as I said earlier on, when we talk about mental health, it has nothing to do with any other thing except the brain. And mental health is basically something wrong with your brain, either it's being genetic or it's been a change that has happened from birth or from your environment or actually the things that are happening around you. So we have the biological, which happens when your parents actually come together to meet, and then each of them cells comes together. So if they have any disease, they can pass it on to you, or you can get one, or you can have a gene which is recessive, and going forward it can be activated based on the environment that you are in as well to have a mental health issue. That is one thing. Secondly, there are also changes that do happen to our DNA or our genetic material just from the environment, like certain things like food and drugs and some other things that we take in could also affect our mental health. And then the things that happen around us, like the behavioral, like if you have a partner that is actually not making you feel happy, a parent, a sibling, even a government that is not also helping you out. And most of these things, the brain actually works because we have signals being activated and there are hormones in play when it comes to our mental health. So we are here to actually focus on the things that we can control. When it comes to things that are biological, we can't in most cases control it because the brain is actually complex, and the study of the brain hasn't even been completed or been done in a halfway. So it is impossible to know how the brain functions. And it is also impossible to get medication that could cure mental health diseases completely or well when you don't even know the function of the brain and then details of how it works. So it has become a big thing, and the awareness is out there. So much work is being put into it to find cure and everything, but at the moment we are only managing our mental health. So we are here to talk about the environmental factors, which is the drugs, the things that we take in, or the things that we can do as people to help us better our mental health. So I'm not talking about people that have been given birth to as autistic or having other mental health related diseases that are genetic. I'm talking about the things that we can do as normal individuals, people without defect from birth. And then even if we get the disease, how we can manage it and control it going forward. So as people, do we love ourselves enough, or are we willing to hear the truth in any case, how do we react to things that do happen around us? And are we always right? If some people can actually answer this, I'll be glad. Are you always right? Do you love yourself enough? Are you willing to hear the truth actually? And how do you react to things around you? Anybody willing to come in on these questions? Anybody wanting to contribute on this one? Hello?
Yeah, I would like to contribute a bit. A question about do I love myself? My simple answer would be not all the time. Yeah, for me.
Mm-hmm.
And are you willing to hear the truth? Mostly, but not always. And how do you react to things around you? We all try, but not in the most healthy way. And are you right always? For me, I'm not always right. I think personally, that's how I'll answer these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel Bidu. Anybody else wanting to chip in on this before we move on? Okay. So we can actually go on. Thank you for the answers. And realistically, it is true because sometimes we are in between situations and we don't know how to make decisions to better ourselves. But one thing that we have to also one thing that we have to also think about, I think there are comments in the chat session because I'm presenting, it's hard to look at it. Yes, thank you. So
So I
we'll
can,
yeah.
Akuya Hunipa says, I love myself.
Thank you, Akia, for the bold answer. Because most of us are not able to answer this, and most of us have not realized how important it is to love ourselves when it comes to our mental health. And when it comes to this, the only thing that we have control over as people is ourselves. You have no control over how other people behave. You have no control about how the government will behave. You have no control about how your partner will behave. You have control over how you react to things. You have control over how you allow people to treat you. And you basically just have the control that you have and nothing other thing. So the World Health Organization has actually quoted that the mental health is not just an absence of a mental disorder, and they defined it as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stress of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contributions to his or her community. So mental health actually has a lot to do with community development. It has a lot to do with a whole lot than just how we feel. So it is important that we find ways to cope with things because life is not fair. Life will happen to us. We will have diseases, we will have incidents, we will have things happening to us right from birth. You will have issues like even if there are no significant issues, you either fall, you trip over a stone, you fall down, you either have an exams to write that could be stressful. Like everything that is happening to us is something that could actually affect our mental health because we think about everything that happens to us before we do it, before we act. Our brain gets a signal and then we are able to act. So in that case, every activity that we engage in as people, our brain will be affected. So what we can only do is to manage how we take things and then be able to control how it happens to us. Because trust me, if you are not dead from this earth, every other thing that comes your way has to be managed. Otherwise, you will never be happy until you leave this earth. So we are here to actually talk about some of the things that we can do to better our mental health as we continue to live, because Without that, we can't actually have a fulfilling life, or we can never be happy. So first of all, we have to be able to educate ourselves. So educating yourself comes with unlearning the habits you have learned from childhood. So when you are born, you know nothing. Your brain is fresh. Your brain gets to learn, to be taught. And while you grow, there are things that you have seen around your environment or taken in that are not positive for you. So you have to be willing to unlearn those things and be willing to learn things that are positive for you. So sometimes if you are in a community and you only mingle with the community that you are in, it turns out that you get not to learn better, or you get not to do different things or progress, because you are stick to that fixed environment and then the mindset that is around the area as well. So I asked the question about, are we willing to hear the truth? As I said, life happens, things do happen, and we do need to learn to connect with the realities of life. Things do happen to us, so it is about us being able to learn that things will happen to us. So we have to connect with what will happen. So in the case where diseases are around and then things do happen, people get cancer, people get these things. The reality is that disease is real. There are things that are genetic, things that are environmental, things that we can control, things that we cannot control. So if we have to connect with reality, we do need to do so, because if you don't actually psych your mind to know that things will happen to you, so you have to also adjust yourself to the things that will happen to you and then correct certain things or cope with it in a way that you can, it becomes really difficult for you to live. And these are the things that will help you to maintain yourself when you are in a stressful situation, and it will help you not to even go into a suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. So we have to also be mindful when you are there. So as a person, before you sleep or even when you wake up, the things that you do in a day, you can stay on your bed, think about it. If you're actually big on meditation, you can sometimes meditate and meditate on the things you've learned, the exams that you are going to do. You can actually meditate, and if you are actually in tune with yourself, sometimes you get revelations. I don't know how much, but it depends on everybody and how spiritual they are. And then if you actually practice that, it really helps. So it guides you on what you are supposed to do in the day. So let's say you go to work and something happens to you, because you are so mindful and you think about some of these things. You come to your bed in the night or before you wake up to work, you think about some of the things that did happen, and then you are able to connect where you went wrong, what you did right, and the things you can do to better it as well. And another thing is also self-care. When we talk about self-care comes in different forms. As a person, let's say I said things happen and all of that. If you have a good personal care routine, it helps you because you are active. You are not always ideal, because if your room is dirty and you take some of the time to clean your room, you are not there thinking about the things that are happening to you, the troubles you have. If you take out time to cook for yourself, you actually get to use some of the time to cook, and the cooking process is also therapeutic. It helps you get away with some of the thinking, the thoughts that you would have sitting ideal, ordering food outside and the rest. So if you are able to also maintain your self-care routine or intensify that, it helps you as well. And let's say you have a clean bed sheet all the time to sleep on. How do you feel when you have your room being cleaned and then having a clean environment? It feels better. Your mental health is actually improved indirectly. And as I said, being mindful comes with being able to manage stressful situations. The stressful situations will come. You might actually be having a better mental health in a day, and then you pass by a building and it collapses. That is affecting your mental health. So you have to be able to deal with the stress that comes each and every day. And if you actually big on knowing that things do happen, you will keep these stressful situations under control. I know it is hard, but if you can maintain it in a certain way, it can be helpful for you on a daily basis as well. And we do have to set boundaries. When we talk about setting boundaries, people will be like, you don't have to communicate with people and all of that, which is really wrong. I told you in the beginning that the things that we have control over is ourselves. So this setting of boundary is, I'm actually talking about the personal environment. The personal environment is what you have control over. So you set boundaries on the things that you do and the things that could actually affect your mental health. If you actually set boundaries on those things, you can better yourself, because as a person, there is always an equal reaction to the things that you have done. So there is an opposite reaction for what you have done to somebody or what you have put into the environment. So we have to also be sure that we are setting boundaries when it comes to ourselves, and limiting screen time. We always press the phone. So on this particular one, I would actually say that what you are actually doing on the phone is what matters. It is not about pressing the phone all the time. You can be pressing the phone for the whole day and you could be learning or getting new ideas and doing things that are productive for your life. So it also depends on what you are doing, what you learn on the screen, and how much what you do there. And basically your brain getting so much light from the phone that we use as well is also bad. So yeah, limiting the screen time is helpful. So aside controlling the things that we can do when it comes to our society, we have to be sure that we are able to also connect with people that are in our society as well. So the things that happen around us, how we react to it. And first of all, if you are a person and you are always isolated, there are so many people that are like, oh, I don't want to mingle with people because people are bad, people are not helpful. I don't want to socialize at all with people. It is really wrong, because for you to get ahead in life, you need people. You need somebody to help you right from the time you were born. You needed somebody to actually carry you to term. You needed somebody to be giving you your first shower, taking you to school, doing every other thing for you. But if you actually say that you don't need people, you get to isolate yourself, you become so depressed. In as much as people can harm you or people can cause you much more problem when it comes to your mental health, we have to know that we are codependent. God, in his own knowledge, actually created man to be codependent on people and society. So if you are a person and you want to isolate yourself, God created Adam and created Eve as well. And then aside creating Adam and Eve, before that he created heaven and earth, created animals, and then created human beings. So without animals and plants, human beings can't also live really well. So we breathe from them, we get food to eat from animals. At the same way, the earth, the sea, the land, everything is codependent. So as people, we have to be sure that we are socializing, and being part of this community is a good step or a positive step towards bettering our mental health as well. And also, we have to be grateful as people. Sometimes people do things for us, like in a society, let's say you are not well and somebody takes care of you, or you are in need and somebody comes to your aid. There are people who, some of us, when somebody helps us, we turn around to be so negative to them. We actually harm them in a way that in the next day when we are in trouble, they are not willing to come to our aid, which is really, really a big thing. And so many people are there wanting to offer help to people, and they are not able to do that because of how they've been treated from doing good. So we have to also be grateful. We have to be grateful. Practicing of gratitude is really important if we want to better our mental health. We have to also offer support to people. In as much as somebody has actually offended you, from you helping them, doesn't make it feel like you don't have to support people, because supporting somebody to succeed in life is equally your success. Let's say you have a sister or a brother who is having a business or starting something. Instead of you to backbite or just be there looking at them, offering support comes in different forms. Sometimes it's just like sharing their post, liking their post, giving them encouragement, buying their first product, doing whatever it takes to which support you can offer financial, you can offer any other help, or talking about their product to somebody else. It's not supposed to be a big thing. If you help somebody progress, the probability that the person will progress is high. So let's say you have 1, 2 people, the probability of you alone succeeding is lower, but the probability of you and somebody succeeding, teaming up, is really high. And let me tell you, people are big on support that they get in their low moment. And if you help somebody to get the success that they are looking for, or the success that they might have had, I don't think in most cases they will turn their back on you in most cases. And I also talk about being gentle with people. Sometimes a lot of people are dealing with so much that they can be rude, they can be harsh, they can be rough. In any case, we have to also learn to be gentle with people, because in every case, in every day, every moment, people are going through life, people are having issues. So, in as much as somebody is treating you in a hard way or in a harsh way, it is not that you have to also retaliate in a negative way, because you only worsen the situation. And let me tell you, when somebody is in a situation and you are worsening their situation, they will also act in a way that will also affect your mental health, because how they will act as well would also be worse than they were before. So let's try to be gentle with people. Let's try to offer support. Let's try to connect with people. Let's try to practice gratitude, and let's listen to people. Let's try and listen to people. Sometimes somebody's problem, you don't understand somebody's problem, so you have to be able to listen to the problem that they have. You don't always have a solution to somebody's problem. Sometimes all people need is reassurance or direction, not saying you are wrong or you are that, because every single situation is different. And I spoke about engaging in hobbies is also close to being active, practicing self-care, and that will also take up some of the time. And if you engage with people, they'll come up with jokes, they'll come up with, maybe they are having a happy moment, they're having a party or something, like they will invite you, and then your day might actually not be as lonely or depressing as it would be normally if you are not engaging in hobbies, you're not engaging with people or any of these sorts. And lastly, I would also say that we have to learn to seek professional support when we are in trouble. Sometimes we actually forget that we need to seek the support. Mental health is actually a health issue, and we don't take it serious. And it's really wrong for us to do that. Somebody will be like, in the African community, be like, are you sick? Are you mad? And all, no, those things, you don't even have to think about how other people would think, because so many people have trauma, and there are so many things going on, especially in the Black community, that we all need to seek professional support when it comes to our mental health. So this picture actually shows us that when it comes to mental health, there are so many of them: anxiety, depression. Some of them have been linked to genetic factors, but all of these that are listed here mostly are linked to our environment. So this shows that we can actually offer ourselves some support to help ourselves, with the exception of people that have genetic disorders, and mostly people that are younger. So there are people that are also younger that are in this situation. Their brains are not developed in a certain way to actually think or have a positive mindset to correct some of the things that they are experiencing. But as old as we are, we can be able to control some of the things that do happen to us when we are able to practice some of the things that I mentioned before, the personal and the environmental factors that could help us better our mental health. Because, as I said, the brain is actually a complex cell, and when your brain grows to a certain age, it does not continue to regenerate itself. So the stress, the complexities that do happen keeps on happening, and we are not able to correct them. So, and treatment for mental health disease is almost mostly antidepressant and therapy. So, if we are able to connect to some of the things that I mentioned previously, it would help us to become better, because life will happen to us in all cases, and we have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and we are bettering our mental health, because nobody else has the obligation to keep you fit or healthy, or everybody is dealing with something. So we have the responsibility to take care of our brain, because as we age, our brain does not regenerate itself. So if you damage anything from any insult or stress that we will get from overdoing our mental health, it's going to affect us for life. And there are no treatment for mental health diseases. We only have management treatment, and which means that if you develop a severe mental health issue, you actually live with it for life, and that would shorten your life. Most medication that comes with mental health issues are actually having the content of it is drugs, which will just keep you feeling weaker and weaker, because if you become so aggressive and all of that, they have to manage you with medication that will make you weak, and then not being able to harm other people around you. So we have to be really careful on maintaining our mental health. So I'd say that thanks to everybody for contributing to this community. And this brings us to the end of today's session. Questions, contributions are accepted at this moment. Thank you all.
Thank you very